Hey everybody, welcome to my second video progress update on Dyens Saudade No. 3. So today is the first video where you're seeing sort of the progress from one day to another, and I think something that's really important, and I tried really hard not to have this sort of edited and have this sort of as a real life thing, was the first performance, my first run through of the piece at the beginning of my practice session was not good. It was a stinker. The licks weren't really working. I tried to do something different musically where, after thinking about the performance and actually watching the performance editing, I wanted to make especially the first two lines sort of move a little bit quicker and take less time between some of those fermated chords and stuff like that, and because of that I kind of felt a little rushed through it. I worked 20 minutes on that section, solidifying the memory. Actually, the memory was pretty straightforward. There's a handful of little flubs here and there memorized, but pretty much the memory is there, and for the performance that you're going to see later on, I feel the memory was pretty strong in that section. I worked the same thing that I showed yesterday. I did the metronome practice with the two main licks. I didn't get to this lick, that lick, although I feel that lick sort of I can rely on it. I felt pretty good with the later performance of it, but I still want to make sure that I'm working on that lick as well. What will wind up happening is that those three licks will go into my excerpt practice, which is a separate set of practice that I do where I work on excerpts, difficult, tricky licks, tricky spots. Regularly, I do an hour of different excerpts from different pieces that I have. I have a whole collection. But there are other technical issues in that first part. Probably the most difficult is I really find it hard between the two moods of the soft mood of during that and making that work within the piece. So that just, I think, is going to take a little bit of drilling out and a little bit of drilling out and then bringing back into the piece. The second one, that didn't work the first time, and I had fingering issues that I had to rectify that I worked on with that. And I also need to take the lick at the very end of that. It didn't work either of the times of the performance. This part, that thing, needs to be cleaned up a whole lot, needs to be done with a metronome. So they certainly weren't perfect, but I was pretty happy in the performance. Again, I didn't work on those things, cleaning them up a whole lot. I spent a lot of time actually counting and working on that triplet section. And so I think it's not rushing through it, but really focusing on that counting, which I said yesterday. So one thing that I'm going to show you is I videotaped another 5-minute little practice session on a really tricky spot that I wasn't anticipating being tricky when I was working through the music, but as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh wow, that is fairly complicated and difficult. There's a lot of things in this piece that I don't normally do technique-wise in playing, and probably one of these are these glissandi notes, sort of glissandi slurs. And in this, in the part of the second page, this part, that thing, that just was a little awkward. And then also it's really getting up to this chord at the end, and what I found is that really I had to drill out that left hand. And so what you're gonna find me doing is a few things in the video. You're gonna find me going through it really slow. I do just chords going like this, just really feeling the weight of my arm as I'm shifting through, and I did that for a while, and then doing a lot of stop practice. And so what I found is that when I would stop here, and then when I would shift, 3 and 4 were pretty late. So I tried to focus on that as well. But here's a 5-minute practice session of that. And I apologize in advance. You're going to hear in the background my cats sort of going at it. You're going to hear them like tackling each other and jingle bells sort of going all over the place. So I apologize for the cat fight that was happening in the middle of that. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. And a 2 E. My main goal for today in terms of learning new music that I spent 25 minutes on was working on the second page of this. And I wanted to get up to the second repeat section, which I almost did. I was one measure away. And then I realized that it was first and second endings. And I was like, oh, never mind. I'm just, I'm going to really reinforce the first ending and not even worry about this. That thing. I didn't even worry about that. I just ended on this low D. What you're going to notice in the performance video is you're going to see that that is the weakest section of the whole thing. I spent probably, by the time that I was working on that, 5 minutes trying to get that going. What I did is that I worked on the first section, this part. Right, that theme. With right notes. And I worked on that. So the first thing that I had to work on is really counting that rhythm. It was way trickier than I thought. I'm doing this tango rhythm in the bass with a pretty syncopated top part, and then all of a sudden the top part just goes into straight eighth notes. So that was a little more challenging than I thought. I spent a lot of time counting it and working on it. I spent 5 minutes on that shifting part, and then I spent probably another 5, maybe 10 minutes singing the melody letter names of this part. And I apologize in advance for my bad singing, but there's F, E, D, B, D, B, A, F, D, F, and I'm trying to recall those letter names. I mean, 25 minutes on it, but as I, playing it slow enough, it's kind of there. Super slow. The score says 80. I'm playing it maybe at 60, probably more in the mid 50s. And it's very much awkward for me to still do. So that's the first section with the repeat. So that repeats as you will hear. And then I had a little bit more time, and so I learned another like 8 measures, maybe 7, 8 measures or so. And that was where the memory just sort of fell apart, and I'm trying to read it, and it just wasn't going well. So I didn't get to my goal of getting 2 of those major sections. So now you're going to hear my end performance. Like I said, there are things that I think went really, really well. Other things that just were not good, whether it was issues that I didn't get a chance to work out, like I mentioned, or whether it's I spent like 5 minutes on it. But to me, what's really important is that this is really indicative of what it's like to practice. This is day 3 on the piece. This piece is not performance ready yet. And I think that students have this unrealistic expectation that professionals and their teachers are always sounding their best. And this is sort of showing you the development of it. This is a very, fragile piece. The first performance really shows the fragility of what I worked on yesterday. I was pretty happy listening back at the end of the practice. Today, it doesn't sound so good at the beginning. And I used those things that fell apart as guides to work on later on that I did in the practice. And then, listening to it at the end of the practice, like, oh yeah, there it is. That's where I expect it to be. So I know that I need regular work on those 3 licks. I'm not, I'm going to do that separately now. So now in my practice, I'm going to be, rotating those licks through my excerpts daily. And, some days they may be good and some days they might not be. I'll still touch on them in the piece and things like that as I put the piece together, but I'm not going to spend the 5 minutes on each one like I've been doing. That's going to be taken care in a different part of my practice. So have a listen to what the piece sounds like today on day 3. So there's the performance of what I have done for today and what I have accomplished. My goal for tomorrow is that I'm going to finish up that first page aside from one measure. Form-wise, it starts to repeat and go somewhere else at the start of the very last measure of the piece, so I'm not going to worry about that. So that's my main goal, is to finish that up, solidify the memory of that second page, especially of what I did today. But then also work on those trouble areas that I had mentioned. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them down below. Like I said, I'll either address them in the comments, type out a comment, type out a reply to you, or I may use it as a launch point for a topic in another video, a future video, whether it's the very next video or a few videos down the road. I'm going to be releasing a new video every single day. If you want to be up to date with those releases and you want to get notified immediately, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification button, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.